Hello everyone, welcome to today's lecture. So did you read the textbook? Have you understood how to draw the ray diagrams? Have you understood what is the structure of human eye? What are the parts of human eye? What are its functions? These all are very important questions. Today we may move on to the next topic, that is apparent size of an object. Before starting with that topic, there is a try this question on page number 89. Make a list of students in your class using spectacles. Record the power of their lenses. Find out and note which type of defect of vision they suffer from. Which defect is most common among the students? Okay, so the defect which is most common among the students is myopia. Okay, myopia means nearsightedness. What is nearsightedness? The person is able to see nearby objects but not able to see far away objects. Okay, that is the answer. Now we will start with the topic apparent size of an object. Okay, here there are two objects of the same size, PQ and P1Q1. These are two objects of the same size. Okay, now this is the eye. For that eye, this object appears to be bigger and this object appears to be smaller. Okay, the object which is farther, the object which is away, it appears to be smaller, and the object which is nearer to the eye, it appears to be bigger. But these both are of the same size. Why it is so? It is due to the angle subtended by the eye to the object. Okay, angle subtended means if this is the object, this is the angle which is made. Okay, this is the angle which is made, this angle. Okay, that is the angle which is made. Okay, in textbook they have taken it as alpha. Okay, it is taken as alpha, and this angle is taken as beta. Okay, alpha and beta. Now here you may see the angle subtended by this object PQ is more than the angle subtended by P1Q1. Okay, therefore the object PQ appears to be bigger than P1Q1. So what happens to an object when it is kept near or far away? The apparent size of an object depends on the angle subtended by the object on the eye. More the angle, bigger the object will appear. Okay, now we will see the textbook, page number 89. Use your brain power question. Why do we have to bring a small object near the eyes in order to see it clearly? This you might have observed. If you want to see any object clearly, you bring it closer to your eyes. Why? Because when it is brought more near to the eyes, then the angle subtended is more, and as the angle subtended is more, the object appear to be bigger, larger. Okay, so the answer is when the object is closer to the eye, the angle subtended is larger and it appears bigger. Next question. If we bring an object closer than 25 centimeter from the eyes, why can we not see it clearly even though it subtends a bigger angle to the eye? Okay, so in the last lecture I had discussed the near point of vision. Okay, the minimum distance of distinct vision, that is 25 centimeter for a normal human eye. That means if you keep it near 25 centimeter, then you are able to see it clearly. But if you bring it closer than 25 centimeter, it causes a stress to the eye. So our eye has a limit of minimum distance of distinct vision, and if you bring the object nearer to the eye more than that, then it causes a stress to the eye. That is why you are not able to see it clearly. Okay, the least distance of distinct vision for human eye is 25 centimeter. If the object is placed at a lesser distance, the ciliary muscles are unable to adjust the lens. That is why we are not able to see it clearly even though it subtends a bigger angle. Okay. Now the next topic is use of concave lenses. This is an important topic, 2-mark question. Medical equipments, scanner, CD player, these instruments use laser light. For proper working of these equipments, concave lenses are used. Okay. The peephole in the door. Your front door in your houses is having a peephole. That peephole consists of concave lenses. This is a small safety device which helps us to see a large area outside the door. This uses one or more concave lenses. Spectacles. Concave lenses are used in spectacles to correct nearsightedness. Torch. Concave lenses is used to spread widely the light produced by the small bulb inside a torch. Camera, telescope and microscope. These instruments mainly use convex lenses. Okay, you may mark that it is a difference there. So these cameras, telescope and microscope, they make use of convex lenses. To get good quality images, a concave lens is used in front of the eyepiece or inside it. Okay, so this is about use of concave lenses. Now the next topic is use of convex lenses. Under the use of convex lenses, we have the study of simple microscope, compound microscope and astronomical telescope. Okay, we will see it. The next is about uses of convex lenses. The first is about simple microscope. Actually, a simple microscope consists of a convex lens. Okay, convex lens. It provides a virtual, erect and larger image of the object. Okay, here the object is kept in between F and O. This is the lens. The object is kept between F and O. When the object is kept between F and O, the image is formed on the same side as that of the object. Okay, do you remember when we had drawn the ray diagrams, the last diagram which we had drawn, the object in between F and O, the image is on the same side as that of the object and the image is virtual and erect. So you will get a virtual and erect image on the same side as that of the object. Okay. If the object is at F, the real and inverted image is obtained at infinity. So there are two conditions for simple microscope. Either the object could be kept in between F and O or it could be kept at F. Okay. In both cases you will get an image. In the first case you will get a virtual, erect and magnified image, and this also is a real and inverted image which could be projected onto a screen. Now, for what purposes are simple microscopes used? You may see in the first paragraph, these are used for watch repair, testing precious gems and finding their defects. And one can get a 20 times larger image of the object using such microscopes. These are the most important points which you have to mark. You have to underline its use and it gives you a 20 times bigger image. Okay. Now the next one is compound microscope. Here I have drawn a ray diagram for compound microscope. I haven't drawn the complete diagram. It is for you to understand. There are two lenses, two convex lenses. Okay. One is a bigger lens. This is the eyepiece. This is through which we see. Okay. You might have seen through a compound microscope. The lens through which you see, that is eyepiece, and the lens which is kept towards the object is the objective. Okay, so this is the eyepiece we see from this side. So this is an eyepiece which is having a bigger focal length and an objective which is having a smaller focal length. They are placed one behind the other on the same principal axis. Their principal axis is the same. Okay, now here this is the object. Okay, this is the object. You may see this is the object. Where is the object kept? The object is kept beyond the focus of the objective lens. Okay, it is adjusted. So it is kept beyond the focus of the objective, and this forms an image at the focus of the eyepiece. Okay, this forms an image at the focus of the eyepiece, and this is acting an object for this lens. Okay, this image of objective is acting as an object for eyepiece, and for the eyepiece this is the ray which is parallel to the principal axis passing through the focus, the ray which is passing through the optic center. Okay, and these rays, if you extend it backwards, I have not extended it backwards, if you extend it backwards, it will come here and you will get an image of this. Okay, so this is the object. This is the first image which acts as the object for eyepiece, and the final image is this. What we see is this. So you may see how much difference. There is a bigger difference. This is a smaller object. The smaller object, you are able to see it magnified several times under a compound microscope. So what you have to remember from this, page number 90, for what purpose do you use compound microscope? It is to observe minute objects like blood cells, cells of plants and animals, and minute living beings like bacteria. You may underline that. What are the uses of compound microscope? Then you may mark from this point. A compound microscope is made up of two convex lenses, objective and eyepiece. The objective has smaller cross section and smaller focal length. The eyepiece has bigger cross section. Its focal length is also larger than that of the objective. Okay, so you can obtain a larger magnification by making use of a combination of two lenses. What are the two lenses used here? Eyepiece and objective. So in case of compound microscope, eyepiece is bigger and having larger focal length, whereas objective is smaller and having smaller focal length. You may mark this much on your textbook. Now the next is about telescopes. There are two types of telescopes, refracting telescopes and reflecting telescopes. This you had studied in your 9th standard. Do you remember you had studied about Newtonian and Cassegrain telescope in the last chapter? Okay, so here there are two types of telescopes, refracting telescope, reflecting telescope. In the refracting telescope, they make use of lenses, and reflecting telescope uses mirrors and also lenses. Okay, here they have given an astronomical telescope, the ray diagram of an astronomical telescope. So this is the principal axis. The principal axis is the same for both the lenses. Here also there are two lenses. Okay, this is the objective and this is the eyepiece. Okay, here in this case the eyepiece is smaller and having smaller focal length, and objective is bigger having larger focal length. Now you may note this sentence on page number 90, the last sentence. It is very important, a frequently asked question. Objective lens has large diameter and large focal length, because of which large amount of light coming from the distant object can be collected. So why the size of the object is kept bigger? So that maximum amount of light which is coming from the object can be collected. That point is very important. Okay, and what about eyepiece? The eyepiece is smaller. Now these are the rays which are coming from the distant object, and it forms an image here on the other side of the lens, which is at the focus of eyepiece. Okay, so the distance of the image of the distant object is falling on the focus. This is the focus of objective also, focus of eyepiece also. They are adjusted so that it is at the same point. Okay, and this image will act as an object for the eyepiece. The ray which is passing parallel to the principal axis passes through the focus. The ray which is passing through the optical center goes straight. So these two are parallel. Okay, so from here we will see, this is the eye. Okay, we will see from this point. Okay, that is the eyepiece. So when we see from here, we are able to get an image. They have shown parallel lines like this. You know that when the object is kept at focus, the image you get it as is at infinity. Okay, so this is the diagram. The questions, there are 5 different questions which could be asked. It is a 5-mark question. You may check your question papers. Okay, there it is a 5-mark question. They will give you what are the two types of lenses, what is the purpose of bigger diameter of objective. Okay, what about the principal axis? It is common, it is the same for the for both the lenses. Then what else have you got to mark? The last statement, generally using the same objective but different eyepieces, different magnification can be obtained. Okay, using the same eyepiece but same objective but different eyepieces, you can obtain different magnifications. Okay, so these are the important questions which could be asked. The ray diagram also could be asked, the ray diagrams of astronomical telescope. Optical instrument. Next is optical instrument. There are different optical other instruments which are used, in which convex lenses are used. Convex lenses are used in various other optical instruments like camera, projector, spectrograph, etc. Spectacles. Convex lenses are used in spectacles also for correcting farsightedness. Now there is a try this question. Take a burning incense stick in your hand and rotate it fast along a circle. What will you see? You can see a continuous circle. Okay, you can see a continuous circle. Draw a cage on one side of the cardboard and a bird on the other side. Hang the cardboard with the help of a thread. Twist the thread and leave it. What do you see and why? Okay, you have to take a cardboard. On one side you have to draw a cage, and on the other side you have to draw a parrot or a bird, and you have to rotate it very fast. You may see that you will see an illusion of the bird inside the cage. What is the answer? We get the illusion of bird inside the cage. Now, why is this so? The image which is formed on the retina of our eye, it remains on that retina for about 1/6 of a second. Okay, so I have written here 1/6 of a second. That image remains on the eye for 1/6 of a second. That is called as persistence of vision. So it is due to persistence of vision we are able to see things moving. Okay, our eye is similar to that of a camera. It is continuously capturing the images, but that image which is formed for one time, it remains for 1/6 of a second on the retina, and after that the next one comes. Okay, so it appears for us to be, the things appears to be moving. This ability of the eye, it is called as persistence of vision. You may see that complete paragraph you have to write if you are having a question on what is persistence of vision. I will read it out. We see an object because the eye lens creates its image on the retina. The image is on the retina as long as the object is in front of us. Okay. The image disappears as soon as the object is taken away. However, this is not instantaneous, and the image remains imprinted on our retina for 1/16 of a second after the image is removed. This sensation on retina persists for a while. This is called as persistence of vision. Okay, so this is the answer for the question, what is persistence of vision, or explain persistence of vision. It is a 2-mark question. Now the last topic of the chapter, that is about the cells. That is, how do we perceive different colors? Next there is a question, how do we perceive different colors? The next paragraph, the last paragraph complete is the answer. In that paragraph they have given about 2 types of cells which are present on the retina. What are the 2 types of cells which are present on the retina? It is rods and cones. Okay, they are rod shaped, in the shape of a rod, so it is said to be rods. Some cells are cone shaped, so they are called as cones. So rods, what is the function of rods? It gives the information about brightness or dimness of an object to the brain. Okay, so I had told you about retina when we were studying about the structure of eye. What is the purpose of retina? The image is formed on the retina. That image, it is converted into message, and the message is taken by the optic nerve to the brain, isn't it? So that images are converted into messages. So when they are converted into messages, who are functioning? These rods and cones are functioning. The rods give information about brightness or dimness of the object, whatever object you are seeing. And what about cones? The cones give information about the color of the object. Okay, so rods give information about brightness or dimness, and the cones give information about the color of the object. So we will see The retina in our eyes is made up of many light sensitive cells. These cells are shaped like a rod and like a cone. The rod-like cells respond to intensity of light and give information about the brightness or dimness of the object to the brain. The conical cells respond to the color and give information about the color of the object to the brain. Brain processes all the information received and we see the actual image of the object. That is how we see the image. Rod-like cells respond to faint light also, but conical cells do not. Okay, so this is a very important point, that is, rod cells respond to faint light but conical cells do not. That is why in faint light or dim light we are not able to see colors. We are able to see objects. Okay, at night if you switch off the lights, after some time you are able to see things. Okay, but you are able to see it in black and white only. You are not able to see them in colors. Okay, why? Because in faint light the rods are functioning but the cones are not functioning. Next, thus we perceive colors only in bright light. It is a very important point. You may mark a 2-mark question. Give reason question. The conical cells can respond differently to red, green and blue colors. Again you may mark, it is red, green and blue colors. When red color falls on the eyes, the cells responding to red light get excited more than those responding to other colors and we get the sensation of red color. Some people lack conical cells responding to certain colors. These persons cannot recognize those colors or cannot distinguish between the colors. Okay, such a disorder, it is said to be color blindness, where the person is not able to see the colors, distinguish between the colors because their cones are not functioning properly. So this is the last topic of the chapter. Okay, hope you have understood the chapter. Now we'll see the numericals. Now the numericals. Page number 92, exercise. First question. Question number 8. Solve the following examples. Doctor has prescribed a lens having power positive 1.5 D. Okay, D stands for diopter, which is the unit of power. Positive stands for it is a convex lens. What will be the focal length of the lens? What is the type of the lens? And what must be the defect of vision? That is the question. So what they have given the power is equal to positive 1.5 D. Now you have to find out F. P is equal to 1 upon F. Therefore F is equal to 1 upon P. So it is equal to 1 upon 1.5, which is equal to 10 upon 15, which is equal to 2 upon 3. Okay, 2 upon 3, that 2 upon 3 you will get it as 0.66, which they have taken it as 0.67 meter. What is the symbol? The symbol is plus. The symbol is plus means it is a convex lens. Okay, the symbol is plus means it is a convex lens. And in which defect it is used? It is used in farsightedness. Okay, now the next question. 5 cm high object is placed at a distance of 25 cm from a converging lens. Okay, converging lens means convex lens of focal length 10 cm. Determine the position, size and type of the image. Okay, so what they have given h1 is equal to 5 cm. h1 is height of the object. U is equal to minus 25. I had told you earlier, you have to take U always as negative because it is placed towards the left hand side of the optical center. F is plus 10 centimeter. Why I have taken plus 10? Because they have told that it is a converging lens. Converging lens means convex lens. So as it is a convex lens, the focal length is positive. What you have to find out? You have to find out position, type and size of the image. Position of the image means it is V. Type of the image is whether it is real or inverted, and size of the image means it is H2. So with the equation 1 upon v minus 1 upon u is equal to 1 upon f. Okay. So 1 upon v is equal to 1 upon f plus 1 upon u. So 1 upon v is equal to 1 upon f is 10 plus 1 upon minus 25. Okay, 1 upon minus 25. Now here the LCM is 50. So 1 upon v is equal to 5 plus minus 2 upon 50. Okay. Now hope you remember how to find out the LCM. You have to take the LCM and calculate. So 5 plus minus 2. So you'll get it as 1 upon v is equal to 3 upon 50. Okay, so 1 upon v is equal to 3 upon 50. So v upon 1 will be equal to 50 upon 3. Okay, so 50 upon 3, which you will get it as 16.66, that is about 16.7 centimeter. Now here you may see what is the symbol, what is the value of what is the value of v, whether it is plus or minus. It is plus. I had told you earlier in another lecture that if the value of v is positive, means the image is real. Now you have to find out h2. v upon u is equal to h2 upon h1. v is 16.7, u is minus 25, h2 you have to find out, h1 is 5. Therefore h2 is equal to 16.7 into 5 upon minus 25. Okay, when you calculate this, you are going to get the value approximately minus 3.3 centimeter. Okay, minus 3.3 centimeter. Now what does this minus sign denote? The minus sign denotes that h2 is inverted. Okay, the image is inverted. In your answer, in your textbook, they have given it as plus 3.3 because that is the answer for height of the image. Height is never negative. Distance is never negative. So the answer for height or distance, they give it as positive. They give the absolute value. But what does the sign denote? The sign denotes only whether the image is real or virtual. Okay, here as v is positive, image is real. h2 is negative, means image is real. I had told you to write this in your textbook. You may write it again. U is always negative, v is positive for a real image, h2 is negative for a real image. Okay, this much you have to remember. Plus focus, focal length is positive for convex lens and focal length is negative for concave lens. Okay, so from these values, what can we conclude? We can conclude that the image is real and inverted. Okay, we can conclude that the image is real and inverted. Okay, now the next question. Three lenses having power 2, 2.5 and 1.7 D are kept touching in a row. What is the total power of the lens of the combination? Now we know the equation. Total power P is equal to P1 plus P2 plus P3. So P1 they have given it as 2, P2 they have given it as 2.5 and P3 they have given it as 1.7. Okay, D 1.7. So what you will get, if you add, you will get it as 6.2 diopters. Okay, now here that is positive. Positive means it is a convex lens. Now the last numerical. An object kept 60 centimeter from a lens gives a virtual image 20 centimeter in front of the lens. What is the focal length of the lens? Is it a converging lens or a diverging lens? Okay, so we will see. Given u is equal to minus 60 centimeter. Okay, minus 60. an object is kept from 60 centimeter from the lens and u is always minus. Okay, so I have taken it as minus. Here the value of v, they have given it as 20 centimeter, but I have taken it as minus 20. Why minus 20? Because they have specified that the image is virtual. I told you here, if v is positive, the image is real. So if the image is virtual, v should be negative, isn't it? So I have taken it as minus 20 and we have to find out f. So 1 upon v minus 1 upon u is equal to 1 upon f. So you have to find out f. So 1 upon minus 20 minus 1 upon minus 60 is equal to 1 upon f. Okay, this is same as 1 upon minus 20 plus 1 upon 60 is equal to 1 upon f. Okay, here the LCM is 60. Okay, the LCM is 60. 20, how much are 60? 23s are 60. I am putting the sign also there. Plus 60, how much are 60? 61s are 60. So minus 3 plus 1 upon 60 is equal to 1 upon f. That is minus 2 upon 60 is equal to 1 upon f. If you cut this, you will get this as 1 upon 30. That is minus 1 upon 30 is equal to 1 upon f. Therefore, what will be f? You take the inverse. So f will be equal to minus 30 centimeter. Okay. So here you have got the answer as minus 30. So which type of lens it will be? It will be a diverging lens. And what is the focal length? The focal length is 30 centimeter. You may see in your textbook they have written the answer minus 30. The lens is diverging or concave. Okay, so this is about the chapter. This is a very important chapter. I have been telling you the important questions from this chapter. Okay, so read the chapter very thoroughly several times. If you are having any doubts, you may ask. Okay, thank you.